Hey, this is Professor Homo. Welcome back to EX7 Info Form Part 2. We started off with some input text fields, and those are these here. And remember, the finished product is going to look like this. So we're moving on to this part that says your home state, and we're going to have a little drop-down box that's going to have three things in there. We'll put New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania in there, just some local areas. You can certainly make one that has every state in there, like when you fill out forms online. Sometimes they have every state, but we'll just put in a couple for now. We already have the zip one in there, and then we're going to have to do our radio buttons, and then we'll be ready to style it. So let's go back to our code, and what I can do, I'll copy and paste this for now, even though we're going to change some things about it. We're still going to have a label here, and it's going to be label for, except this time it's going to be state. So I'll put label for state, and we're just going to put your home state, or whatever, it could just be state, but I'll put your home state in here. And then I'll also change the name to state and the ID to state for when we use that. And the size, I don't need a size in here, so I'm going to take that out. Okay, and it's not going to be input type. It's going to be select. So I'm going to have to change this. It's not going to be input type equals select. It's going to be select. So I'm going to remove this here, and it's just going to be select. And we can still have select name equals, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to put in option values after here. So we're going to just see how this works. We'll put in one here and see if it works. We're going to put option value, and you can see option is coming up here, so I'm going to choose option, and I'm going to say value equals, and then for the first one I'll put New Jersey, since you guys are from New Jersey for the most part. I'll put option value New Jersey, and then I'll put my bracket here, and you can see there's a closing option, so I have to put the actual value in here, and I'm just going to put NJ in here, and I could have NJ in here as well, or I could spell it out, whatever you want to do, or you could have it spell out the full name from the list, or I guess there's no reason I wouldn't want to have NJ in here. That should be fine. And then I'm just going to copy and paste this, no reason to type that again, and I'll put a couple values here, and I'll do a PA. And depending, you could switch them around depending which order you want to use. I'll just put New Jersey, PA, New York for now, based on what would be most popular, what's closest. You can also put another option here. I'm going to copy and paste and put another option at the beginning, and I'll paste this here. And I'll call this select, and I'll just put lowercase. And in here, I'm going to actually put like a dash, so it looks a little different. So when it shows up in the list, there's a little dash, so it looks like you should click on it. So that's going to be the first one. And also what you can do here, they just have a little, you don't put anything other than selected. And here, if you start typing it, it actually comes up. There's selected. What that's going to do, it's going to make that be the selected one, so it shows select first in the list. So that it doesn't show New Jersey, PA, or New York in that list. So I'm going to put that as selected. And then also, I think we still have to finish it off. We didn't finish off our select, so we actually have to close it off with a select at the bottom. So for select name equals here, we have to finish it off at the bottom. Okay, and because there's a select here, we don't need this. There's like a closing bracket here. We don't necessarily need that up there. I guess it doesn't hurt, but I don't think we necessarily need that because we are going to have a closing select. So I think we should get rid of that for now, because we do have a closing tag. So I don't think we're going to want that for select, but that should be our list for now. Let me just save that and see what it looks like, and I'll refresh this, and there's our little select. There you can see we have New Jersey, PA, and you could choose one of these. Doesn't look really good yet. Looks pretty cramped together and hard to fill out, but that's what CSS is going to do. But at least we have our information here, and we have it in a way it should be easier to kind of gather our information and use it in a form, so that's the important thing. We also have our zip here, so the last thing we're going to have to do here is put in our radio button. And if we take a look at the example for the radio button, you can see we have select gender is going to be our label, and then these things are technically labels, but we're not going to use labels here. We're just going to use our radio buttons, and then we're just going to put text next to them. It'd just be easier to line them up that way since we have them horizontally in a row. So we're not going to use that for now. So I'm going to go and put in my radio button part, and we can do it also with a label. So I'll go back to brackets, and I'll copy one of these. Again, we're still putting these line breaks in between. So I'll paste this, and this will be label for, and we'll just call it gender for now. And the label there is going to be select gender. I think that's what it had. and that's going to be our label for that. And then input type equals, we are going to use input type, except it's going to be radio. These are going to be radio. We're not going to have any size. And we're going to have, what we're going to have here is we're going to have name, and the name is going to be gender. And all of these are going to have the same name. For how many radio buttons, they're going to match up so they work as a group. So we're going to have two gender ones. An ID, I'm just going to put the first one for male. And also what we're going to have to do is we're going to put a value of what value it's going to be so that we know when it comes back that it'll use the value for it. So we're also going to have to put in here value equals, and we'll just put male. That'll be the value of what comes off at the end. So I'm going to highlight this. And these are just the radio buttons. So when we put them in, they'll just look like radio buttons. So these are the two. One is going to be for, and name is going to be the same. They're both for gender, except the ID for the one is going to be female, and the value is also going to be female. Okay, so name stays the same when they're radio buttons. I'll save it, take a look at it, and there's our radio buttons. They don't look really nice yet because we don't have any labels in front of them. And what we'll do is we'll put the word after it. So I'm just after the button for male, I'm going to put a space, and I'm going to put male, and then I'm also going to do two non-breaking spaces, NBSP, and you can see it come up in your list, and I'm going to put two of those. So we're just going to spread them out with two non-breaking spaces, because remember, you can't just put regular spaces in HTML code. You got to use non-breaking spaces. I'll stretch this out a little, and that will kind of create the division between the next radio button. And then at the end, I'm just going to put a space and put female, and that should finish up our radio buttons, I believe. Let me just save that and see what it looks like. And that's what we have so far. So it doesn't look bad. We have everything in our form. We just have our submit button. So the last thing we're going to put in here, and I'll copy one of these again. And we don't even need a label for this. We're just going to put an input type submit button at the end. So I'll copy one of these at the end. And I'll just put input type equals. And it's not text, it's actually submit. And you could use a button, but we're going to use input type equals submit. We're going to remove the size from that thing that we copied and pasted, and we'll just put name equals submit, although technically we don't need a name. And I could do ID equals submit if I want to, but we also need a value of submit. And we'll take a look at how that looks. I'll save it. And there's our submit button. And notice that the value is the one that actually shows up. So that's kind of like the label. So if you wanted if you wanted a capital letters, or if you wanted a capital S on here, that value is actually what shows up on top of the button. So if I go here, now I made it capital. So there's my submit button. And obviously it needs to be probably on another line, even though there's a line break here. So we're going to have to move that down so that it's on its own line. And then we'll start formatting this stuff and moving it around with our next step is where we'll build the CSS.